well, this is the van painted in its final form. We're really happy with the result. You know, it's not perfect. It was our first time painting a vehicle. It was our first time using, Raptor Liner as a product. There were a lot of firsts for this, and it's also just a large vehicle to deal with. There's a lot of surface area. There was a lot of prep. I mean, the prep took us the longest amount of time out of anything. The actual painting process was probably like 3 to 4 days. So hopefully we'll get to show you that in all these videos that will eventually come out as we edit them, and the steps that we took to get to this result. Maybe you can use them in your own projects. So a few reasons we painted the van was we did have some rust bubbles coming through. We knew this when we bought the van, but they continuously got worse over the years, and we finally had the time to kind of tackle this project. And also the paint from factory almost had lost its like protective coating and would sort of like absorb water when it got wet, like it no longer had the property to bead water. So we knew we were going to paint the van. We just didn't know when. It happened to be this past summer after 4 years of owning it. So hopefully she's good for the rest of her life on the road. So we used Raptor Liner as mentioned, and we used a tintable version of Raptor Liner, which we tinted gray to get this gray color. It's actually a Mercedes color already. It's kind of like one shade darker than what the van was before. And then we also just used the plain black Raptor Liner. It already comes tinted black for the plastic paneling, as well as anywhere like below the plastic paneling, we painted black. And we also painted the bumper black as well. So for the tintable Raptor Liner, we ended up getting a couple bottles of tint made from a paint shop in Calgary. At the time we were driving across the country when we were planning out this paint job, and we knew the color we wanted. They were able to make the tint for us. We then picked up the Raptor Liner product in Ontario because that's where the dealership was, and they were super helpful with questions we had about the product, how to apply it, etc. They were great. And yeah, then we ended up painting it here in Nova Scotia. Some things to note in case you're doing this project. We thinned our Raptor Liner. I think we thinned it 20%, but I'll put the right number somewhere here, because we wanted to spray it through an HVLP gun with a 2mm tip. We just wanted a finer texture instead of kind of the classic bed liner texture that Raptor Liner is, from the bottle without being thinned. We were really happy with the consistency. It's kind of more like skateboard grip tape consistency versus a classic bed liner. So hopefully we do it justice with showing you the steps we took to get to this outcome. There'll probably be a couple videos we filmed over the kind of 2 months of this process, with most of it being prep, a tiny little bit of it being the actual painting of it. So we'll see how those come out, and we hope you enjoy. And with that, we're gonna jump back in the past. I'll show you some of the problem areas on the van, and then we'll get into the video. We purchased our van in November of 2020 for $6,000 Canadian. This was one of 2 vans for sale in our area at the time, and we decided to go with this one as it was cheaper and had a single rear wheel, whereas the other van was a dually. The van was in limp mode and would not exceed 50 kilometers per hour, and with a 4-hour drive home on the highway, we opted to get a tow truck to deliver it. The van was used as a passenger vehicle for a flight school. Therefore, it had 12 seats in it, as well as 4 side windows and rear door windows. It was in pretty good shape. However, there were already a few rust issues that we noticed. We dealt with a few of them to buy us some time, but the proper repairs were never done. Honestly, at this point, we were just going to be doing a very minimal build and didn't have huge plans for the van. It was sort of a temporary project. But as time went on and we were in some strict COVID lockdowns, we didn't really have anything else to do other than continue to build the van out. So over 4 years later and around 80,000 kilometers traveled with 3 different countries under our belts, we're finally going to deal with the rust and give Valerie the van a little facelift.
Well, we're starting our paint job today, and the first thing we need to do is remove the bumper. So we built this bumper a couple years ago, and we rhino linered it or rock linered. I don't even know what the brand is that we used, but essentially rubber truck bed coating. It's gonna match the rest of the van now. We're gonna strip this, paint it again. But anyway, bumper's coming off, fenders are gonna come off. We've got a lot of rust repair we're gonna do, and then we're gonna be putting it back together and hopefully painting it soon for you guys, but for us it's likely going to be about a 2 to 3 week process. We don't have every day to work on this. Let's get started. We've got some more bolts to remove for this bumper, and then move on to the fenders. Odds are you can just use the wrench on the nut and it'll turn it.
Okay, spinning with my finger now.
Okay, just go straight off the front. Nice. Ah, perfect. Good stuff, bumpers off. 4 nuts plus this thing, and this thing is... headlights are out. So the main reason we had to take this off was because of this corner right there. The corner there needs a little love. Kind of the problem area for us. Like we couldn't get, look at that rust. We couldn't get to this when it was on the van because it was behind the fender. Hopefully these fenders are salvageable. I'm really hoping that that material there is not too thin. So now that we get this fender off, we've yet to kind of look behind the fender on the van. So let's go look at that. Hopefully the van's still in good shape because the fender's replaceable. The body of the van, a lot harder to replace. So this is the van itself. Most of this is just like road grime and dirt because the fender usually stays over this. You can't really see this area, but with this removed, I'm hoping that this is just nothing that needs to be here. That's seam sealer, that's body stuff.
Wow.
That's like seam sealer and stuff. It's all kind of rotten and gone bad and wet. That's road grime. That's all seam sealer. But you can see how it's rusty. It's because the whole body of the van's just a little bit rusty right there. Not too bad. All things considered though, I'm impressed.
It's not bad, it's not thinned
it's
out
not,
too much.
it's not, there's no holes in it.
Yeah.
There could be holes in this.
Yeah.
I was half expecting there to be a hole. This little flakes of rust will take care of all that.
There's also some like up here.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's on the factory well, but
Not bad, but
no, nothing's too bad. But anyway, so we'll deal with that. Now with this door open, you can kind of see behind the door. This was all we could really see before. It looks better with it off.
yeah.
Like I'm happy to see this. This looks
The
pretty good.
metal's there. It's just it looked worse.
We've seen the worst of the damage. I think that's the worst rust on the entire van, and I'm happy to see it, I guess. I don't know. From looking at it from the fully together standpoint, I guess, the van really, this is the first thing we've taken off. This looked to be the worst spot on the whole van. I'm really hoping that is the case because this isn't terrible. We can deal with this. So, thumbs up from us. Time to figure out what we're doing because we still don't know. How do we do this? How do you paint a car? Alright, well, yesterday we managed to strip the entire roof off the van. We've got the solar panels off, we've got the roof box off. We're in a better shape now to basically continue working on the van. So we haven't really been able to clean our roof since we put the solar panels on in, I want to say maybe March of 2021? Wow. Anyway, about March of 2021 is when we put the solar panels on the roof, and now it is July of 2024. So it's been over 3 years. We got all the grime cleaned up from underneath those because we are going to be repainting the roof under the solar panels. So today's goal is going to be removing the black plastic trim, continuing to clean the van, and getting closer towards the step of paint. So we've still got a long ways to go in prep work, but we're getting there. The first step we're kind of taking with the entire van before we get towards sanding is just cleaning it. So we're using a red Scotch-Brite pad and some Dawn dish soap, and in places where it's super greasy, in Nova Scotia here we tend to undercoat our vehicles with oil. We spray them so that they do not rust as bad. But yeah, we've got to clean a lot of that oil up, stuff that's kind of seeped around the doors and things like that. And for that we're using some degreasing cleaner. Anyway, let's get this thing tore apart. Success! That's awesome. Whole panel off,
great.
not one broken clip.
Nice.
I know, right? A little bit of rust in here.
It's so tiny though. Holy.
Well, it's a hole.
Yeah, I guess it's...
So that's the rust hole. The only
It
one we've really
actually-
found so far that goes through. So, anyway, obviously we've had some water ingress in this area here that we did not necessarily know about, but how would you? Because these body panels live. They
Not
live
bad.
there.
For like the whole stretch of them.
No, not bad at all.
I mean, they're definitely dirty underneath, and there's like some little spots. Like there's some spots that we fixed previously, but obviously
This is another previous repair that you can see is.
yeah, we need to treat them and paint them again, but not bad. Not too shabby.
No, it's kind of nice knowing like we're gonna repaint it. Like there's no guilt for me like digging the screwdriver around because it's not gonna hurt anything. All right, well, we are on our way. We've got access to a garage that will fit the van because it's quite tall. We need at least a 10-foot garage door. So we've got some wood here. We've got the shop vac. We've got box fans for painting, things like that. So the goal is to build a paint booth inside of a garage. So one, we get a clean, good paint job. We don't make a mess of the garage, and overall, just a better experience. So let's go make this happen. Well, this is it. Our plan is to increase the lighting in here because it's kind of dark. The only lights in here are the little bulbs, some of which are burned out.
We'll bring a new one.
So this is used to store a camper trailer in the winter time. Nice tall ceilings, nice deep bay, gravel floor, which for us really doesn't matter because we're gonna put a tarp down on the floor anyway to make sure we don't get overspray everywhere or dust from the ground or anything. So this should work out quite well. So the plan is to go find some tarps. We're gonna put tarp on the floor. We're gonna tarp up the wall. We're gonna tarp across the ceiling, up the back, the front, make another wall on the other side. And then the box fan right now, we're kind of just playing with things, trying to figure out how we're gonna ventilate the space because not only do we want to keep the paint booth fresh air for us to breathe, we will have full respirators on, but we also just want to keep it clean. Part of keeping it clean is keeping air, fresh air moving. So
Perfect.
this is gonna work out really well. Thanks, Gene. While we're doing it, we've got the paint booth started, essentially. So you can see this wall beside me here is all done. We've got one section in on the ceiling. We've got 1.5-ish sections to go on the ceiling. We were able to staple the plastic right up to the rafters, which is great. There's nothing in the way. And yeah, we're basically going to have this really big plastic Dexter-like room to paint the van in. All right, we'll be back here tomorrow.
Well, we are back at the garage. It's the following day, and we brought, can you see it? A big air compressor that we're borrowing from a family friend. Thank you, Steve. So we moved that from his place this morning, brought it here. We're gonna get it hooked up. I don't know if we're getting it hooked up today or not, but it's massive and very heavy and not fun to move. We are just figuring out some lighting in the garage. That's the plan for right now, anyway.
Well, this is it. It's the end of day 2 working on the paint booth. So now we've got ourselves a rather large paint booth. We've got 14 feet wide and 23 feet long. The van is 7 feet wide and 20 feet long, so should have lots of space on both sides especially, and the back, a little bit at the front, but not so much. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So we brought our air compressor with us here today, so it's now here. We've still got to plumb that into the electrical panel and then get the air lines figured out. So none of this has been hooked up before, the air compressor. We're borrowing it, but it was not hooked up when we borrowed it, so we'll have to do all that. But anyway, this is going to be great.